My son-in-law looked me dead in the eyes, turned off my television, and said 5 words I'll never forget. "Go to your room, old lady." I looked at my daughter, my own flesh and blood, the girl I raised alone for 27 years. She looked away. My heart didn't break, it shattered. I grabbed my keys, walked out the front door, and didn't say a single word. Not one. But what happened the next day, when that man in the suit showed up at their doorstep? Let's just say nobody saw it coming, especially not Derek. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this whole thing started. Because trust me, you're gonna wanna hear every detail. My name is Helen. I'm 68 years old, and for most of my life, I thought I knew what love was. I met my husband, Richard, when I was just 19. He was working at his father's auto repair shop in Columbus, Ohio, had grease on his hands and the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. We got married 6 months later. Everyone said we were crazy. Too young, too broke, too naive. But you know what? We didn't care. Richard worked double shifts. I picked up waitressing jobs on the weekends. We saved every penny, every single one. When I found out I was pregnant with Jennifer, I cried for 3 days straight. Happy tears, the happiest tears of my whole life. Richard held me and said, "Helen, we're gonna give this baby everything we never had." And we meant it. Jennifer was born on a rainy Tuesday in April. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, tiny little fingers, big brown eyes just like her daddy. She was perfect. For the next 5 years, life was good. Not easy, but good. We didn't have much, but we had each other. That was enough. Then everything changed. Richard went to work one morning, kissed me on the forehead like he always did, and said, "See you tonight, honey." He never came home. A truck ran a red light, hit his car on the driver's side. They said he died instantly. No pain. But me, I felt enough pain for both of us. I was 24 years old, a widow, a single mother, and I had no idea how I was gonna survive. But I had to, for Jennifer. So I did what any mother would do. I picked myself up, wiped my tears, and went back to work. 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Whatever it took to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. Jennifer never went without, not once. She had new shoes for school. She had birthday parties. She had everything I could give her. Was it hard? You have no idea. There were nights I'd cry myself to sleep after she went to bed. Nights I'd stare at Richard's photo and ask him why he had to leave us so soon. But I never let Jennifer see me weak. Never. I wanted her to grow up strong, independent, confident. And she did. Jennifer graduated high school with honors, got a scholarship to Ohio State, became an accountant, made me the proudest mama in the whole world. When she turned 25, she called me with big news. "Mom, I met someone. His name was Derek." Now I'm not gonna lie to you. From the very first time I met Derek, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. He was polite. He smiled at all the right times. He said all the right things. But there was something in his eyes, something cold. I told myself I was being paranoid, overprotective. Jennifer was happy, and that's what mattered. They got engaged after a year of dating. Got married in a beautiful ceremony at a little church outside the city. Jennifer looked like an angel in her white dress. I cried the whole time. Happy tears, at least I thought they were. After the wedding, they started looking for a house, a place to start their new life together. That's when I made a decision I thought came from love, a decision I'd question for years to come. See, I'd been saving money my whole life, every extra dollar, every overtime check, every tax refund. It all went into one account. My rainy day fund, I called it. By the time Jennifer got married, that account had grown to something significant, more than I ever thought possible. And I decided to use it. I bought them a house. A beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in a nice suburb. Big backyard, white picket fence, everything a young couple could want. Jennifer cried when I handed her the keys. "Mom, you didn't have to do this." "I know," I said, "but I wanted to." Now here's the thing, and this is important. When I bought that house, I put it in my name. Not Jennifer's, not Derek's, mine. Why? Because my lawyer, a man named George Patterson, advised me to. He said, "Helen, things happen. Marriages don't always work out. If you're gonna spend your life savings on a house, you should protect yourself." At the time, I thought he was being overcautious, but I listened anyway. The house was mine. Legally, officially mine. I told Jennifer we'd transfer it to her name eventually, when the time was right. But that time never came. They moved in, started their life, and for a few years everything seemed fine. Jennifer got promoted at her accounting firm. Derek worked in sales. They seemed happy. But I noticed things, small things. Derek never said thank you, not once, not for the house, not for anything. When I'd visit, he'd barely look at me. He'd sit in front of the TV, scrolling through his phone, while Jennifer and I talked in the kitchen. I told myself he was just tired, stressed from work. Men are like that sometimes. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then, 3 years ago, Jennifer called me with news I didn't expect. "Mom, Derek lost his job." Apparently, he'd been let go from his sales position, something about budget cuts. But Jennifer's voice told me there was more to the story. I didn't push. A few months later, Jennifer called again. "Mom, I need a favor, a big one." "Anything, sweetheart." "Derek and I are struggling. We're behind on bills. I was wondering if maybe you could move in with us, help with expenses." I paused. Move in with them, at 65 years old. Part of me hesitated. I had my little apartment, my independence, my routine. But this was my daughter, my only child, the reason I'd worked so hard my whole life. "Of course," I said, "I'll start packing." Looking back now, I wish I'd asked more questions. I wish I'd seen what was really going on. But I didn't. I moved into their guest room 2 weeks later, brought my sewing machine, my photo albums, and my little TV. That's all I needed. At first, it wasn't bad. Jennifer seemed grateful to have me there. We'd cook dinner together, watch old movies, talk about everything and nothing. But Derek was different. He was home all the time now, said he was looking for work, but I never saw him apply for anything. He'd sleep till noon, then sit in the living room watching sports and drinking beer. And he started making comments. Little ones at first. "Helen, could you keep it down? I'm trying to relax." "Helen, don't use so much hot water. Bills are expensive." "Helen, why are you always in the kitchen? Go watch TV in your room." I brushed it off. I didn't want to cause problems. Jennifer was already stressed enough. But the comments kept coming, and they got worse. One day, I was making myself a sandwich for lunch. Nothing fancy, just bread, turkey, and a little mustard. Derek walked in and stared at me. "You're eating again." I froze. "I made you a meal this morning," he said. "That should have been enough." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, holding my sandwich, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. "Derek," I finally said, "I'm just making lunch." He rolled his eyes. "Whatever, just don't eat all the food. Some of us actually contribute around here." He walked out before I could respond. That night I cried in my room, quietly so no one would hear. But I told myself it was just a bad day. Everyone has bad days. Things didn't get better, they got worse. Derek started treating me like I was invisible, like I was a burden, like I didn't belong in my own daughter's home. And Jennifer pretended not to notice. That hurt more than anything Derek ever said. I'd look at her, hoping she'd say something, stand up for me, tell her husband to show some respect. But she never did. She'd just look away, change the subject, leave the room. My daughter, the girl I sacrificed everything for, couldn't even look me in the eye. But I stayed quiet. I swallowed my pride. I told myself things would get better. I was wrong. 6 months ago, Derek found a new job, some kind of real estate thing. He started coming home in fancy suits, talking about big deals and investments. You'd think that would make things better. It didn't. If anything, he got worse. He started talking about changes around the house. New furniture, new paint, new everything. And then, one day, he said something that made my blood run cold. "You know, Jennifer, I've been thinking, this house is pretty valuable. We should look into selling it, moving somewhere bigger, nicer." I was in the kitchen, washing dishes. I heard every word. Selling the house, my house. I didn't say anything, but I made a mental note to call George Patterson the next day. That call changed everything. George listened to my concerns. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Helen, I need to tell you something. About a month ago, a man came to my office asking about the property deed for your daughter's house. Said he was looking into refinancing options." "What man?" I asked. "Derek Lawson, your son-in-law." My heart stopped. "He wanted to take out a loan against the house," George continued. "A big one. I told him I couldn't help him without the owner's permission." "And what did he say?" "He got angry, said you'd sign anything if Jennifer asked you to. Then he left." I sat there in silence, processing. Derek was trying to use my house, my life savings, behind my back. "George," I said slowly, "what happens if I never transfer the house to Jennifer?" "Then it stays in your name. Legally, it's yours. Nobody can sell it, refinance it, or do anything with it without your consent." I took a deep breath. "Good," I said. "Keep it that way." George assured me he would. Then he asked if I wanted him to do anything else. "Not yet," I said, "but stay close. I have a feeling I'm gonna need you." I didn't tell Jennifer about that call. I didn't tell Derek either. I just went back to my quiet life, cooking, cleaning, watching my little TV in the living room. But now I was watching something else too. I was watching Derek. And what I saw made me sick. He was charming with Jennifer, all smiles and sweet words. But the moment she left the room, his face changed. He'd glare at me, mutter under his breath, make sure I knew I wasn't wanted. But I didn't leave, not yet. Because I needed to know something. I needed to know if my daughter was part of this, if she knew what Derek was planning. I prayed she didn't. But that prayer wasn't answered. It happened on a Tuesday night. I'll never forget it. I was in my room, reading a book, when I heard voices in the hallway. Derek and Jennifer, talking in hushed tones. I crept to my door and listened. "Derek, I don't know about this," Jennifer was saying. "She's my mother." "Your mother is sitting on a gold mine," Derek replied. "That house is worth $500,000, Jen. $500,000, and she's just gonna let it sit there." "But it's her money. She earned it." "She's 68 years old. What's she gonna do with it? We need that money, for our future, for our kids someday." There was a long pause. "What if she says no?" Jennifer asked. "Then we make her say yes. We've been feeding her, housing her, taking care of her for almost 3 years now. She owes us." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. This wasn't just Derek. This was both of them. My daughter was in on it. I went back to bed that night, but I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering where I went wrong. Wondering how the little girl I raised became someone who could talk about me like I was nothing. But I didn't cry, not this time. This time, I got angry. The next morning, I called George Patterson again. "George," I said, "I need you to do something for me, something big." "Name it." "I want you to prepare documents, full documentation showing I own that house, and I want you to prepare eviction papers, just in case." There was silence on the other end. "Helen, are you sure?" I've never been more sure of anything in my life. George said he'd have everything ready within a week. 1 week, that's all I needed. I just had to survive 1 more week in that house. Turns out, I couldn't even make it 3 days. It happened on a Friday evening. I was sitting in the living room, watching my evening news. Same thing I did every night. Derek came home from work. He was in a bad mood. I could tell by the way he slammed the door. He walked into the living room, saw me sitting there, and something in his face snapped. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Watching the news," I said calmly. "In my living room." I looked at him. "I always watch the news here, Derek." He marched over to the TV, grabbed the remote from the coffee table, and turned it off. Then he looked at me with pure hatred in his eyes. "Go to your room, old lady. This is my living room now." I sat there, frozen, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe this was happening. "Derek," I started. Did I stutter? Get out, go. I turned to look at Jennifer. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. "Jennifer," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Sweetheart, please." She didn't say anything. She just looked away. And in that moment, I understood everything. All those years of sacrifice. All those nights I went hungry so she could eat. All those times I put her first. None of it mattered. I stood up slowly. My legs felt like lead. I walked to my room, grabbed my purse, my keys, my coat. Then I walked right past Derek, right past Jennifer, and straight out the front door. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't make a scene. I just left. But inside, a fire was burning. I drove to a hotel that night, a little place off the highway, nothing fancy, but it was clean. I sat on that hotel bed and stared at the wall for hours. Then I picked up my phone and called George Patterson. "George," I said, "remember those papers I asked you to prepare?" "They're ready." "Good, because I need you to deliver them personally. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp." "Deliver them where?" I gave him the address. My address. The address of the house I bought with 40 years of my hard work. "And George." "Yes." "Wear your nicest suit." The next morning I woke up early, showered, did my hair, put on my best dress, the blue one Richard always loved. Then I drove back to the house. I didn't go inside. I just parked across the street and waited. At exactly 8:55 a.m., a black sedan pulled up in front of the house. George Patterson stepped out, briefcase in hand, looking every bit the serious lawyer he was. He walked up to the front door and rang the bell. I watched from my car, heart pounding. The door opened. And what happened next? Well, let's just say it was worth every tear I'd ever cried. Derek opened the door. He was still in his pajamas, hair messy, coffee cup in hand, the picture of a man who thought he had it all figured out. "Can I help you?" he asked, looking George up and down. George smiled politely. "Good morning. I'm looking for Derek and Jennifer Lawson." "That's us. Who are you?" "My name is George Patterson. I'm an attorney." I watched Derek's face change, just slightly. A flicker of confusion, maybe a little worry. "An attorney, what for?" "May I come inside? This is a matter best discussed in private." Derek hesitated. Then he stepped aside and let George in. The door closed behind them. I sat in my car, barely breathing. My hands were shaking. For the next 20 minutes, I waited. It felt like 20 years. Then my phone buzzed, a text from George. "Come inside, now." I took a deep breath, fixed my hair in the rearview mirror, and walked across the street to the house I'd paid for with my entire life. When I opened the door, the scene inside made everything worth it. Derek was sitting on the couch, white as a ghost. Jennifer was next to him, tears streaming down her face. George was standing in the middle of the living room, documents spread out on the coffee table. They all turned to look at me. "Mom," Jennifer whispered. I didn't respond. I just walked in, closed the door behind me, and took a seat in the armchair across from them. "Please continue, George," I said calmly. George nodded and turned back to Derek and Jennifer. "As I was explaining, Mrs. Helen Crawford is the sole legal owner of this property. The house was purchased in her name, with her funds, and has never been transferred to anyone else." Derek's face was turning red. That's impossible," Jennifer told me. "I don't care what Jennifer told you," George interrupted. "I have the deed right here, Mrs. Crawford's name, her signature, her money. He held up the document for everyone to see. This house belongs to Helen. It always has. And under Ohio state law, she has every right to decide who lives here. Derek jumped to his feet. This is ridiculous. We've been living here for years. We've been paying bills, maintaining the property. With money Helen contributed, George cut in. According to my client, she's been paying a significant portion of the household expenses since she moved in 3 years ago. Derek's mouth opened, then closed. He had nothing to say. Because it was true. Every month I'd given Jennifer money for bills, groceries, utilities, whatever they needed. I thought I was helping my daughter. Turns out, I was just funding Derek's comfortable lifestyle. This is insane, Derek muttered. He turned to Jennifer. Jen, tell them this is our house. Jennifer was crying harder now. She couldn't even look at him. Jennifer, I said softly, is there something you want to say? She finally looked up at me. Her eyes were red, swollen. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. Derek said if we could just get the house in our name, we could refinance it and pay off our debts. He said it would be easy. He said you'd understand. I felt my heart crack, just a little. And what about last night? I asked. When he told me to go to my room, when he called me an old lady, did you think I'd understand that too? Jennifer covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Derek, meanwhile, was packing back and forth, running his hands through his hair, trying to figure a way out of this. Look, he said finally, turning to me. Helen, Mom, I'm sorry, okay? I was stressed. Work has been crazy and I took it out on you. That wasn't right. I stared at him, just stared. You're not my son, I said quietly. Don't call me Mom. His face hardened. The mask slipped, just for a second. There it was, that coldness I'd seen from the very beginning. Fine, he said. You want to play it that way? Let's play. You can have your precious house, but Jennifer is my wife, and wherever I go, she goes. He turned to Jennifer. Come on, we're leaving. Jennifer didn't move. Jen, get up now. She still didn't move. Jennifer. Finally, she looked up at him, and something in her eyes was different. No, she said. Derek froze. Excuse me. I said no, Derek. I'm not going anywhere with you. You could have heard a pin drop. Derek's face went through about 6 different emotions in 2 seconds. Shock, anger, confusion, more anger. What are you talking about? Jennifer stood up slowly, wiped her tears, and for the first time in years, I saw a glimpse of the daughter I remembered. I've been watching you, Derek, for months. The way you treat my mother, the way you talk to her, the way you've been trying to steal her house. Steal? I wasn't trying to steal anything. I was trying to secure our future. By throwing my mother out on the street, by making her feel worthless in her own home. Derek took a step toward her. George immediately stepped between them. Mr. Lawson, I'd advise you to stay calm. Derek glared at him, then at me, then back at Jennifer. You're making a huge mistake, he said through gritted teeth. You'll regret this, both of you. No, Jennifer said. The only thing I regret is not seeing who you really are sooner. Derek stood there for a long moment. His hands were shaking. His face was red. Then, without another word, he turned and walked upstairs. We heard him slamming drawers, throwing things around. 20 minutes later, he came back down with 2 suitcases. He stopped at the door and looked at Jennifer one last time. I'm gonna get a lawyer, a real one. This isn't over. Then he looked at me. The hatred in his eyes was so intense it made me shiver. And you, old lady, I hope you're happy. You just destroyed your daughter's marriage. He walked out and slammed the door behind him. The house went silent. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Jennifer collapsed onto the couch and started crying harder than I'd ever seen her cry. I walked over and sat down next to her. Slowly, gently, I put my arm around her shoulders. Mom, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. SHH, I whispered. It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay. No, it's not okay. I treated you horribly. I let Derek treat you horribly. I should have said something. I should have stood up for you. I was just so scared of losing him. I know, baby, I know. She cried into my shoulder for a long time, and I held her, just like I used to when she was little and had a bad dream. George quietly excused himself, said he'd call me later about the legal details. I barely heard him leave. All I could focus on was my daughter, my little girl, the one I'd sacrificed everything for. She was broken, but she was still mine, and I was going to put her back together. Over the next few weeks, a lot happened. Derek did get a lawyer, but it didn't matter. George had all the documentation. The house was in my name, free and clear, and there was nothing Derek could do about it. He tried to fight for half of Jennifer's savings, claiming he was entitled as her husband. But it turned out Jennifer didn't have any savings left. Derek had already spent most of it on his investments, which, as far as I could tell, meant expensive dinners and a sports car he couldn't afford. In the end, Derek walked away with nothing but his suitcases and his bruised ego. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. But I want you to understand something. This wasn't a happy time, not at first. Jennifer was devastated, not because she missed Derek. I think part of her was relieved he was gone, but because she was ashamed. Ashamed of how she'd treated me, ashamed of the person she'd become, ashamed that she'd let a man turn her into someone she didn't recognize. We had a lot of hard conversations during those first few weeks. One night, we were sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset, when Jennifer finally opened up. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why didn't you leave sooner, when Derek started treating you badly? Why didn't you just go?" I thought about it for a moment. "Because I was afraid," I admitted. "Afraid that if I left, I'd lose you forever. I thought if I just stayed quiet, things would get better. I thought if I was patient, you'd eventually see what was happening." Jennifer shook her head. "I was so blind." "You were in love, or at least you thought you were. Love makes us do stupid things sometimes. But you sacrificed so much for me, your whole life, and I threw it all away." I reached over and took her hand. "Jennifer, listen to me. You didn't throw anything away. You made a mistake, a big one, but you're my daughter, and I will always love you, no matter what." She started crying again, but this time they weren't tears of shame. They were tears of relief. "I don't deserve you, Mom." "Maybe not," I said with a little smile, "but you're stuck with me anyway." She laughed through her tears, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had my daughter back. The weeks turned into months. Slowly, things started to change. Jennifer went back to work with renewed energy. She got another promotion, started putting money back into savings. And she started taking care of me, really taking care of me. She'd cook dinner for us every night. We'd watch old movies together on the weekends. She'd ask about my day, my health, my feelings. It was like she was trying to make up for all those years of neglect. And honestly, it was working. I started feeling like myself again, like I mattered, like I was more than just an old lady taking up space. One day, about 4 months after Derek left, Jennifer came home from work with a big smile on her face. "Mom, I have a surprise for you." A surprise, at my age. She laughed and handed me an envelope. I opened it and found 2 plane tickets inside. "What is this?" "We're going to Florida, Mom. 2 weeks at the beach, just you and me." I stared at the tickets. I couldn't believe it. "Jennifer, this is too much. You don't have to." "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "You spent your whole life taking care of me. Now it's my turn to take care of you." I didn't argue. How could I? That trip to Florida was one of the best experiences of my life. We stayed at a beautiful resort right on the water. We ate amazing food. We watched the sunrise every morning. But the best part was just being with my daughter, talking, laughing, reconnecting. One evening, we were walking along the beach when Jennifer stopped and turned to me. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What is it, sweetheart?" "I've been thinking a lot lately, about life, about what matters, and I realized something. What's that? Family is everything, and I almost lost mine because I was too stupid to see what was right in front of me. She took my hands in hers. I promise you, Mom, from now on, I'm going to be the daughter you deserve. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make sure you never feel alone or unwanted ever again. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Jennifer, you don't have to promise me anything. Just having you back is enough. No, she said. It's not enough. You gave me everything. Now I'm going to give it back. We hugged right there on the beach, with the waves crashing around us and the last rays of sunlight painting the sky. It was the most beautiful moment of my life. But things were about to get even better, because what happened when we got home from Florida? That's when the real surprise came. And trust me, it was bigger than anything I could have imagined. We'd been home for about a week when the doorbell rang. Jennifer was at work, so I went to answer it myself. Standing on my porch was a young man, early 30s, nice suit, kind eyes. Something about him seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. Can I help you? I asked. Mrs. Crawford, Mrs. Helen Crawford. That's me. He smiled, a warm, genuine smile. My name is James Patterson. I think you knew my father. Patterson, why did that name ring a bell? Then it hit me. George Patterson's son. Yes, ma'am. Dad passed away about 6 months ago. Heart attack, it was sudden. My heart sank. George had been my lawyer for over 20 years, a good man. A trusted friend. I'm so sorry, I said. Your father was a wonderful person. Thank you. He spoke very highly of you, Mrs. Crawford. Very highly indeed. James shifted on his feet. He seemed nervous about something. Is there something I can help you with, James? Actually, yes. That's why I'm here. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Before my father passed, he asked me to deliver this to you, personally, when the time was right. I took the envelope. My name was written on the front in George's familiar handwriting. What is this? I don't know, ma'am. Dad never told me. He just said it was important, that it could change your life. I stared at the envelope. My hands were trembling. Would you like to come inside? I can make some coffee. James smiled. I'd like that. We sat in the living room while I made coffee. My mind was racing. What could George have possibly left me? When I came back with the drinks, I sat down and carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, and behind the letter, a stack of documents. I started reading. The first few lines made my heart stop. Dear Helen, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But before I left this world, there was one thing I had to tell you. One secret I kept for almost 40 years. I looked up at James. He was watching me with curiosity. I took a deep breath and continued reading. And what I discovered in that letter, well, it changed everything. Everything. But I'll tell you about that in a moment. Because first, you need to understand something. Sometimes, the biggest twists in life don't come from the people who hurt us. They come from the people who loved us all along. People we never even knew were watching, protecting, waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. George Patterson was one of those people. And the truth he revealed. It was something I'd never expected, not in a million years. I read the letter 3 times before I could fully understand what it said. My hands were shaking so badly that James had to hold the papers steady for me. Mrs. Crawford, are you okay? I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at the words George had written. Words that changed everything I thought I knew about my life. Let me tell you what the letter said. Dear Helen, if you're reading this, I've passed on to whatever comes next. I hope it's peaceful. I hope there's good coffee. But before I go, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you 40 years ago. It's about Richard. Your husband came to see me 2 weeks before he died. He walked into my office with an envelope full of cash and a worried look on his face. He said, George, I need you to do something for me, something important. I asked him what it was. He said, I've been saving money, not much, just a little here and there. Money Helen doesn't know about. I want you to invest it for me. Put it somewhere safe, somewhere it can grow. I asked him why he was being so secretive. And what he said next, Helen, it broke my heart. He said, I have a feeling, George, a bad feeling. Like something's gonna happen to me. I don't know when, I don't know how. But I need to know that if I'm gone, Helen and Jennifer will be taken care of. I told him he was being paranoid, that he was young and healthy and had decades ahead of him. He just smiled and said, maybe, but promise me anyway. Promise me you'll take care of them. So I promised. 2 weeks later, he was gone. Helen, I've kept that promise for 43 years. The money Richard gave me wasn't much, just a few $100s, but I invested it, carefully, wisely, and I added to it over the years. Every time you paid me for legal work, I took a small portion and put it in that account. I know I should have asked your permission, but I wanted to honor Richard's wish. I wanted to make sure you'd be okay. That account has grown, Helen. It's grown a lot. The documents behind this letter will explain everything. But the short version is this. You have an investment account in your name worth $847,000. It's yours, all of it. Richard's gift to you, finally delivered. I'm sorry I kept this secret for so long. I was waiting for the right time to tell you. But I suppose there's never a perfect time for something like this. Use this money well, Helen. Travel, see the world, spoil your daughter. Do all the things you never got to do. Richard would have wanted that. And Helen, one more thing. You are one of the strongest, kindest, most remarkable women I've ever known. Richard knew it. I knew it. And I hope by now you know it too. With love and respect. George Patterson. P.S. My son James is a good man. Better than me, honestly. If you ever need legal help, he's your guy. I trained him myself. I set the letter down. The room was spinning. $847,000. Richard. All these years. Mrs. Crawford. James's voice seemed far away. Do you need some water? I shook my head slowly. Tears were streaming down my face, but I was smiling. He never forgot us, I whispered. After all this time, he never forgot us. James looked confused. I'm sorry. My husband, Richard, he died 43 years ago, I thought. I thought I'd lost everything when I lost him, but he was still looking out for me, all this time. I picked up the letter again and held it to my chest. All this time. James sat with me for another hour. He explained the documents, showed me the account statements, answered all my questions. The money was real, every penny of it. By the time Jennifer came home from work, I'd managed to compose myself, but just barely. Mom, whose car is that outside? And why are you? She stopped mid-sentence when she saw my face. Mom, what's wrong? What happened? I handed her the letter. She read it, then read it again, then sat down heavily on the couch. Oh my God, she breathed. I know. Dad did this before he died. With George's help, yes. Jennifer looked at me with tears in her eyes. Mom, this is incredible. I know, sweetheart, I know. She threw her arms around me and hugged me tighter than she had in years. Dad loved you so much, she whispered. He really, really loved you. He loved both of us, I said. That's why he did this, for both of us. We sat there for a long time, holding each other, crying happy tears. Richard had been gone for over 4 decades, but in that moment, it felt like he was right there with us. The next few months were like a dream. I didn't go crazy with the money. That wasn't my style, but I did start living, really living. First, I paid off all of Jennifer's remaining debts. She tried to argue, but I wouldn't hear it. Your father wanted us taken care of, I said. Both of us, end of discussion. Then I did something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the chance. I traveled. Jennifer took time off work and came with me. We went to Paris, Rome, London, all the places I'd only ever seen in magazines. We ate croissants at a little cafe near the Eiffel Tower. We threw coins into the Trevi fountain. We had afternoon tea at a fancy hotel in Mayfair. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. But the best part wasn't the sights or the food or the fancy hotels. The best part was doing it all with my daughter by my side. We talked for hours during those trips, about everything, about Richard, about the years we'd lost, about the future we were building together. One night in Rome, we were sitting on a balcony overlooking the city when Jennifer turned to me with a serious expression. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I've been doing a lot of thinking, about my life, about what I want." "And what do you want, sweetheart?" She took a deep breath. "I want to be like you." I laughed. "Like me, an old lady who watches too much TV." "No," she said, not laughing at all. "Like you, strong, independent, someone who doesn't need a man to feel complete, someone who can stand on her own 2 feet no matter what life throws at her." I felt my heart swell with pride. "Jennifer, you already are that person. You just forgot for a little while." "Maybe," she said, "but I'm never gonna forget again, I promise." And she meant it. I could see it in her eyes. We came home from Europe with full hearts and empty suitcases. We'd given away most of what we'd brought to people we met along the way. Street vendors, hotel staff, anyone who looked like they needed a little kindness. Richard would have loved that. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm after that. Jennifer continued to thrive at work. She got promoted to senior accountant, then to department manager. Her bosses loved her. Her colleagues respected her. She was finally becoming the woman I always knew she could be. And me. I started volunteering at the local community center, teaching sewing classes to young mothers, helping out at the food bank on weekends, keeping busy in all the best ways. I also started a college fund, not for Jennifer, she didn't need it anymore, but for other kids. Kids like I used to be, kids who needed a little help to reach their dreams. I called it the Richard Crawford Scholarship Fund. Every year, we'd give out 3 full scholarships to students from low-income families. Kids who had the grades but not the money. Kids who just needed someone to believe in them. It was my way of honoring Richard's memory, of passing on the gift he'd given me. The first scholarship recipient was a young woman named Maria, single mother, 2 jobs, straight-A student. She reminded me of myself at that age. When I handed her the check, she burst into tears. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "This changes everything." "You don't have to thank me," I told her. "Just promise me one thing." "Anything." "When you make it, and you will make it help someone else, pass it on." She promised, and I believed her. Now I know what you're thinking. What about Derek? What happened to him? Well, let me tell you. About a year after the divorce, I heard through the grapevine that Derek had moved to another state, started fresh, found a new job. And a new woman. Some rich widow he'd met at a real estate convention. Apparently, he was using the same playbook, same charm, same manipulation. Part of me wanted to warn her, to tell her what kind of man she was dealing with. But Jennifer stopped me. "Mom, it's not our problem anymore," she said. "Some people have to learn the hard way, just like I did." She was right, as much as I hated to admit it. Besides, karma has a way of catching up with people like Derek. And about 6 months later, it did. Turns out, Derek's new girlfriend wasn't as naive as he thought. She had him investigated before things got serious. When she found out about his history, the debts, the scheming, the way he'd treated his ex-wife's mother, she kicked him to the curb. Last I heard, he was living in some rundown apartment, working a minimum wage job, and trying to figure out where it all went wrong. I didn't feel sorry for him, not one bit. You reap what you sow. That's what my mama always said. And Derek had sown a whole lot of rotten seeds. But enough about him. This story isn't about Derek. It's about family, about love, about second chances. And speaking of second chances, something wonderful happened about 2 years after all the drama. Jennifer met someone. His name was Michael. He was a teacher at the local high school, history and social studies. Kind eyes, warm smile, the kind of man who actually listened when you talked. They met at a charity event I'd organized for the scholarship fund. Michael had brought his students to volunteer, and Jennifer was there helping me set up. I watched them talk for almost an hour that first night. The way Jennifer laughed, the way her eyes lit up. I hadn't seen her like that in years. When she came home that night, she was practically glowing. "Mom, I met someone." "I noticed," I said with a smile. She told me all about him. His job, his family, his love for old books and bad puns. "He seems different," she said. "Like actually different, not Derek different." "Give it time," I told her. "You'll know when it's real." She did give it time. They dated for almost a year before things got serious. I watched Michael carefully during that year, watched how he treated Jennifer, watched how he treated me. He passed every test. He'd bring me flowers for no reason. He'd sit and listen to my stories about Richard, even the ones I'd told 100 times. He'd help with dishes after dinner without being asked. Little things, but little things matter. One evening, Michael came to me when Jennifer was out of the room. "Mrs. Crawford, can I talk to you about something?" "Of course, dear." He took a deep breath. Nervous, flustered, it was adorable. "I want to ask Jennifer to marry me, but I wanted to ask your permission first. I know it's old-fashioned, but it felt right." I looked at this young man, this kind, gentle, wonderful man who had made my daughter happy again. "Michael," I said, "I would be honored to have you as part of this family." His face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. "Thank you, Mrs. Crawford. Thank you so much. One condition, though." "Anything." "Stop calling me Mrs. Crawford. Call me Mom." He actually teared up a little at that. "Yes, ma'am, I mean, Mom." He proposed to Jennifer a week later. She said yes before he even finished the question. The wedding was beautiful, small but perfect, just close friends and family in our backyard, the backyard of the house I'd bought with my life savings, the house that had seen so much pain and so much healing. Jennifer wore a simple white dress. Michael cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. And me, I sat in the front row, holding a photo of Richard in my hands. "I wish you could see this," I whispered to him. "Our baby girl, all grown up, finally happy." I could almost hear him respond. That deep, warm voice I still remembered after all these years. "I see it, Helen. I've always been watching." The ceremony was short and sweet. They wrote their own vows, promised to love each other through everything, to be partners, to be best friends. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, everyone cheered. I cried, happy tears, the happiest tears. At the reception, Jennifer came over and sat next to me. "Thank you, Mom," she said. "For what?" "For everything. For never giving up on me. For forgiving me when I didn't deserve it. For showing me what real love looks like." I took her hand and squeezed it tight. "Sweetheart, that's what mothers do. We love our children no matter what, even when they make mistakes, even when they break our hearts. The love never stops." She hugged me tight, right there in the middle of her own wedding reception. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, baby girl. I always have. I always will." That was 5 years ago. Today I'm 73 years old, still living in my house, still healthy, still happy. Jennifer and Michael live just a few blocks away. They have 2 kids now, a boy named Richard after his great-grandfather, and a girl named Hope. I see them almost every day. I babysit while Jennifer and Michael work. I teach little Richard how to fix things around the house, just like his great-grandpa would have. I teach Hope how to sew, just like my mama taught me. It's a good life, a full life, a life I never thought I'd have. Sometimes, late at night, I think about everything that happened. The struggles, the pain, the betrayal, the healing. And you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. Because every hard moment led me here. To this house, to this family, to this beautiful, messy, wonderful life. Last week, little Richard asked me a question that made me smile. Grandma, were you ever sad? I thought about it for a moment. Yes, sweetheart, I was sad sometimes. Life can be hard, people can be mean, things don't always go the way we want. What did you do when you were sad? I pulled him onto my lap and held him close. I kept going, I said. I kept loving, I kept hopping. And eventually the sad times turned into happy times. That's how life works, baby. The storms don't last forever. And after every storm, there's sunshine. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Grandma. Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad the sunshine came. I kissed the top of his head. Me too, baby, me too. That night, I sat on my porch and watched the sunset. The same porch where Jennifer and I had so many hard conversations. The same porch where we'd healed our broken relationship. I thought about Richard, about George, about all the people who had loved me throughout my life. And I thought about Derek, the man who had tried to take everything from me. He'd wanted my house, my money, my dignity. But you know what he couldn't take. My family, my strength, my hope. Those things are unbreakable, untouchable, forever. I smiled as the last rays of sunlight faded over the horizon. Thank you, Richard, I whispered, for the house, for the money, for the life we built together, but mostly, thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. The evening breeze rustled the leaves, almost like a whisper, almost like a response. I closed my eyes and let the peace wash over me. Everything was exactly as it should be. My daughter was happy, my grandchildren were thriving, my heart was full. And somewhere up there I knew Richard was watching, smiling, proud. I stood up and walked back inside. Jennifer was in the kitchen making dinner. Michael was helping the kids with their homework. The house was full of laughter and love. My house, my family, my happy ending. I grabbed my old photo album and settled into my favorite armchair. Little Hope climbed into my lap immediately. Tell me a story, Grandma. I opened the album to the first page, a picture of Richard and me on our wedding day, young, hopeful, in love. Once upon a time, I began, there was a young girl who met a young boy. Hope listened with wide eyes as I told her the story of her great-grandparents, of love and loss, of struggle and survival, of second chances and happy endings. When I finished, she looked up at me with that innocent, beautiful face. That's the best story ever, Grandma. I hugged her close. It really is, sweetheart, it really is. And that's where my story ends. Not with anger or revenge or sadness, but with love, with family, with gratitude for every moment, good and bad, that led me to this place. Derek thought he could break me. He thought he could take my home, destroy my relationship with my daughter, and leave me with nothing. But he was wrong. Because you can't break someone who knows their worth. You can't destroy someone who has love in their heart. And you can't take anything from someone who knows that the most valuable things in life aren't things at all. They're moments, memories, people. And I have all of those in abundance. So if you're out there, struggling, feeling like the world is against you, feeling like you'll never find your way, keep going. Keep loving. Keep hopping. Your sunshine is coming, I promise. And when it does, it will be more beautiful than you ever imagined. As for me, I'm sitting in my living room right now, surrounded by my family, watching my grandchildren play. The TV is on. Nobody's telling me to turn it off. My daughter is laughing. My son-in-law is making terrible jokes, and I'm exactly where I belong. Home. And we all lived happily ever after. With the biggest smiles you've ever seen. The end.